to another episode of the Mini with the Micra engine build. This will be episode 12. Really getting towards the final hurdles now. In this episode I want to cover sort of a couple of engine related areas. Three main areas: fitting the recently arrived manifold with the throttle bodies, measuring up and cutting the drive shafts to suit. That's a hybrid shaft in the Nissan, the original Mini. And then the third thing I want to check is the clearance around the bulkhead area, make sure there's no obstructions to the manifold. And once that's done, I'll drop the engine out, and I've got a couple of things I just want to mention about the auxiliary drive belt arrangements I've got sorted out on this particular engine. So I'll just crack on. And just one little thing to note: I've just been under the car and I had to move the battery cable, which was originally fitted in the standard little channel from the factory. I'd refitted it, knocked it into position, and the little crimps that the factory put in had pushed through the insulation here, and I was lucky to find this before I connected the battery, otherwise that would have been a dead short square. So just a point worth noting. So I'm just going to put a bit of insulation on here, and I'm actually routing the cable inside the car. It'd just be an easier run in this particular case because the battery's in a box in the rear footwell. So I now have the inlet manifold back from Eden at JizFab, and first thing I've got to say is what a good job he's made of it. It's really good actually. This is obviously the original K11 manifold here, and I've got the injector rail in place. And the bit that Eden's done is fabricate this bit of tubing here. You had to machine some little tubes here just to get these rubber tubes to be seated correctly, and then he's welded those to the tube and the tube to the manifold. Really nice bit of welding, and it's really good. So I've just done a quick trial fit, and it's almost there, but not quite. The only little bit of fouling is this bit of metal here, which was the bracket that holds the old engine mount. It's no longer required, so it's going to be absolutely no problem just to cut a piece off. And once I've cut that piece off, it'll just sit behind here, so there'll be no fouling. And then the other thing I'll probably have to move is the brake balance valve, which was here. I've taken it off just temporarily. It may go back, I'm not sure, but otherwise I'll just move it across a little bit and extend the lines, the brake pipes out, and just bend this one round. That'll fit, no problems then. So I'll just get the grinder, just trim this back, and then see how we go. Okay, that was a quick little job. The little tang at the back there's now cut. I fitted it, just put one bolt in just to hold it in situ, just to see how it goes, and it fits really snug. The only issue, I've just put the brake balance valve back on, and the clearance between the inlet manifold and the valve itself is literally a couple of millimetres. So I'm going to definitely have to move that and just work out a little position to go. It will be easy just to drill a hole and get a rib nut in once I've got the engine out, so that'll be done separately. I'll just mark it up for the time being. So yeah, really pleased with that. Not quite sure if I'm going to put an airbox on here with a remote cold feed, or whether to just have trumpets and just put a inlet air temperature sensor just in this locality here. So I'm going to have a bit of research on that. Right, I've just tried the brake valve in its new position. It's going to be just literally about 40 millimeters to its left of the original position, and probably about 5 millimeters higher, and that will give sufficient clearance between the valve and the manifold here, and still allow the use of these brake pipes. They will move that much. I may be able to take it slightly more even, just to give a bit more clearance. So it'll be about there by the time we're finished, and then there'll be no making new pipes. Okay, today's little job is to sort out the drive shafts. Now I've got two Nissan drive shafts here, passenger side, driver shaft side, and what I want to do is work out the lengths I need from the Nissan drive shaft to the Mini drive shaft. What I'm going to use is a little tube here, machine tube, which has already been done to the correct diameter. That should or will just slide over the drive shaft. There's a little bit of a recess here where a gate was fitted, so I'll probably be cutting the shaft further up here anyway. That'll slide on out the way, and then the two shafts will be chamfered, welded in a piece of angle line to keep it all straight. This will then slide down over the ground down weld, and then this itself will then be welded around the joint where it meets the drive shaft itself, so it'll help reinforce it and hopefully strengthen the joint. The passenger side drive shaft, which is going to be a bit shorter, I'll have to work out where the joint's going to be, but I'm expecting it to be around about here somewhere on the shaft. I'll hopefully have room to slide this up, carry the welding, grind it down, slide it back down. If not, what I'll do is I'll cut this into two halves, so it's got two clamshells. That'll fit around the shaft and then be welded up and around the side, so we'll get some good penetration on the side as well as the end. So potentially a stronger solution anyway. The other point on the passenger side drive shaft, there's a bit of an issue where this boot here is actually carries quite a lot of bulk, and what I found through looking at some Multifactors parts catalogues on drive shaft gaiters is that Renault, for a long time now, since the 1970s, I think it started on the Renault 5s, produce a much sort of slimmer boot. So from when it comes off the CV joint, it steps down immediately, and I think I should be able to fit one of those on here. So I've got to do some measurements, measure the two respective diameters at the joint and the drive shaft, and I think the Renault one should fit. Okay, I've just got the drive shaft into the differential housing. That's locked in place, and what I've done, I've jacked the suspension up to get the drive shaft out, the outer drive shaft parallel to the ground. And prior to when it was in full, the suspension was in full droop, I measured, hopefully you can see a little sleeve here, I measured the overlap essentially between the inner drive shaft here, the Nissan joint, and the outer joint, and the gap was much bigger. I've just measured the vernier, and as you can see there, let's try and get a close up, it was probably about 8mm longer. So the plan is to use the length when the suspension is in full droop. That provides the longest requirement for the drive shaft itself. And then what I'll do then is cut this shaft here, the Nissan shaft, to be the right length. I've just dropped the suspension down, so it's in full droop at the moment, and just slid the slide into position, and I'll just put it back just to show you that the drive shafts are in contact with each other, so there's just about the right sort of compression on the inner joint, not too much, not too little. And so hopefully with that all welded up, that's in position, we should end up with a nice strong drive shaft. So we're just going to operate this through its arc of movement just to be absolutely sure everything's okay and it all turns smoothly. So I've just set the passenger side up. I've put the sleeve on so you can see the inner drive shaft, Nissan drive shaft, mini drive shaft. And what I've done, I've set this up in full droop, just brought the drive shaft, just compressed the suspension, just brought the drive shaft pretty well horizontal, so it's shortest length, and the plan is to cut at this line here and then cut 30mm off this boot. That's just a reference point just to mark it, and that works out just about here. So there's enough room to get the sleeve on, get a beader weld around here and still fit the boot, and the same on the inner joint as well. So it's time to get the steady bars off, drop the engine and take it out to start the strip now. Now the engine's out, I've got this little job here just to move the brake valve over a little bit. So I'll just get these pipes out of the way. It's all drained, there's no fluid in here to be concerned about. So the plan is to change this UNF bolt here to an M8, only because I'm using a rib nut into the bulkhead here, into this cross member. And I just want something fairly secure. I could use an M6, but I'm going to use this rib nut, push into here, and that should secure it. One of the things I always tend to do if I'm drilling any holes, any metal, and paint's fine, but it will crack as soon as you put a rib nut in, so I tend to just give it a good do over with some wax oil. in the box section there. I will be spraying this box section in time. There's an access hole here, plus others I can get to. So that hopefully will do the job. That's in good and tight. So in terms of the pipes, I will be able to bend these ever so slightly just to get them to fit. It's only about 30mm further over anyway. So I'll just do those, and this bottom one's got plenty of reach, no problem at all. So we're okay on that. Okay, this is a valve in a new place, just 30mm over, a little bit further up. Just touched up this area here, just a bit of paint required. Well, that's the engine out on its stand, ready for the strip down. I've just left the various ancillaries on, the throttle bodies I've left on, exhaust I've left on, and lifted the whole unit out. Stripped the gearbox off, flywheel. May get the flywheel light, and I'll look into that in a separate sort of area. On the engine, I just want to show you a couple of details around the pulley arrangement here. For those building something similar for a Mini, it's quite an important area, this area, because it's quite tight in terms of space. I mentioned before, this is a Daihatsu Hijet van alternator. It's also found with a small engine Daihatsus. Super small, compact, and it just fits in behind the grille, so that's quite a useful modification. The way I've set this up, I've set up the alternator so it's in a fixed position. So the only method I've got of tensioning the belt is through this idler pulley here, and I'll just bring the camera in and get a bit closer in. So here, I've just got the pulley off the Nissan alternator, which is a lot bigger affair. I had to get a little sort of top hat just to adapt it to the shaft. That's bolted in place now and locked on. And then this particular pulley here came off another Nissan engine which had air conditioning. And the bracket here, the bolt holes, allowed it to fit in this position here. So the air conditioning pump was down here somewhere in this area, and this was the tension that was fitted in a completely different place. As it turned out, the pitch of the two holes, bolt holes here, is the same as this area here, just on the top of the block. And you can adjust this pulley in and out on this sliding mechanism and lock it off in position. So that's fairly strong, fairly secure. And what I intend to do, just to make the belt easy to fit, is use a stretch belt. So I'm going to measure this whole arrangement with the bottom pulley in place, and then get a belt that's a stretch belt to fit on. So it's just easier because this is a bit of a job to do when the engine's actually in the subframe. I've got to the point in the build where I need to start getting parts in there for the engine rebuild. Some of the things I can do mail order, shouldn't be a problem. Because of the lockdown, I'm limited to just absolute essential journeys to and from home, so that will have to wait for quite some weeks before I can get out, start taking bits to a machine shop to be done and buying parts in. So that part of the job's on hold. There's a few things, just painting a few ancillary pieces on the engine I can crack on with, so they'll be on the shelf ready to go. So once all the bits do come in, the engine build should be quite quick. And the rest of the body, because it's all prepared, I've just got to do some wax oiling, so I can get some things sorted out just in advance of the engine. But that's about it for the time being. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up. Any questions you have, just put in the comments below, and I hope we get back in touch with you soon. And see you on the next one. So see you all soon. Stay safe.